I think it's very important when you're picking your team that you're picking from people who have a lot of experience with all of the different CSA initiatives. So I think it's very important that you're choosing people who have attended a lot of these events. Just like Andre said, he's been to about 90% of the events. He obviously is a very good candidate. Not saying anything, but I've prepared by going through the agenda, going through everybody who is on the CSA, and considering each and every person. Obviously, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I've been speaking with people, just kind of testing their interest and seeing how they'd want to be involved with the CSA next year. And then once it comes down to it, if elected, I'm going to have to spend a lot of time contacting people and just seeing who's interested in what, and making sure that that it's a win-win situation for everybody, and that everybody is contributing in a way that they're qualified to contribute to, and then also we'll be able to have fun at that position.
I suspect this is something that all of the candidates have been thinking about in some depth. Basically, my approach is to look beyond council. How many of our council members are actually graduating at the end of this year? It's a lot. And the important thing about experience is that knowledge and skills can be taught. What can't be taught is enthusiasm, hard work, and dedication. And those aren't characteristics that are exclusive to the council. They're not exclusive to the student groups or the current volunteers. There are people in this school whose names we don't even know, who are doing volunteer activities outside the school, who are running sports teams, who are helping coach their little brother's basketball team. And what we want to do is tap into those people. If I have to introduce myself at the interview, that's fine with me. But I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to interview for an exec position. Furthermore, I have been thinking about the criteria based on that I would base my decision on, and it's really important to me to put people not only where they're passionate about, in an area that they're passionate about, and not only where they have experience, but also where their characteristics that they don't necessarily see are going to best suit them. A lot of us aren't very good at looking really honestly at ourselves, and it takes a stranger or someone you're not as familiar with to see those things about you. And so I think that by judging character and enthusiasm and past experience as well, I can create a very strong executive and strong general counsel.
In the grand scheme of things, this is something I've prepared for many years. There's a quote in there that says, where is it? The most important thing you have is your reputation. And I haven't gotten people's feedback and gone around asking them, what's my reputation like? But it's something that I'm always aware of. And to have a reputation of somebody that isn't too outgoing, somebody that's adaptable, somebody that can cater to different populations, to different audiences. And honestly, in the 4 years that I've been here, I've had, and I mean everybody who's been involved, and most students have done this as well, is deal with different personalities. I feel like I have the ability to deal and cater to different personalities, and the personalities that would want to come and get involved. And this may not be for my executive, but in my speech I mentioned catering to the first years. Going out, and we do a good job of this, as the CSA does a great job of this for Buddy Day, but to continually, throughout the year, attend their events, open up those lines of communication, get them involved, and for years to come, then the first years will be a lot more involved. And that's not just the first year counselor either, it's the whole first year population. Now for this year, I feel I've created a great reputation, and the knowledge of people's knowledge of me and getting to know them was important. I think people respect me and would want to work with me, not for me.
So I'm going to answer this question in two parts. First of all, I'm going to address the question directly. I think what would qualify me to pick a strong council and a strong executive is I know people. Before the room started to empty out, I knew probably close to 90% of the room. So if nothing else, I have numbers on my side. Now that the room's emptied out, I probably know still about 70% of you. So I've met a lot of people. I'm going to drive a lot of those people to get involved. That being said, I don't know how much you can actually prepare to pick your council. I think it's very important that the people you don't know and you maybe haven't met yet, you still give them their shot, right? Maybe I know 40%, 50%, 60% of the faculty. But that percentage I don't know, I'm not tapped into yet. I want to be able to tap into that and see, are you qualified? Are you going to be a good leader? And really get those people involved as well. Thank you.
All right. I think one of the, I'll start with the sponsorship aspect of that. From seeing the CPP and the different corporate partner program material that we have, it's, maybe this is my shortcoming, but it's not really clear to me which events go into the CPP and which ones don't. And so stags sometimes are left on their own trying to scrounge funding for events that are new or are not well established or for whatever reason didn't make it into the CPP. And so I think one of a very important aspect of this is making sure that the sponsors have a definitive, comprehensive list of all the events that they have the opportunity to sponsor. And that goes both for in-kind donations and cash sponsorships. In terms of working with the stags to be more inclusive of them, I think it would be very helpful to encourage all the stag members to come to the council meetings. Like I said, I'd like to keep the council meetings open as much as possible, and encourage the stag members to come. There are a lot of members of stags that I have not met, and I can't be a member of all the stags. So having those people come out and gather in a more CSA neutral environment is really important. Gonna leave it at that.
All right. Plans for the stag groups. I met with Scott McCall at the Dean's office before these elections, and through discussion, it came up that the stag groups have been moving around quite a bit. So my plans is to, one of my plans is to cement where they are, maybe not right now, but find a permanent place for the stags, for them to stay there and avoid the shifting that goes on between stag groups. How will I help include stags in getting sponsorship and exposure? From what I understand, all stag groups have corporate relations representatives for each stag. What I would want to do is not only have them attend the council meetings, but also attend, be part of the manager of corporate relations realm, be closely linked to the director of corporate relations, and attend a lot of their meetings. As some of you know, through the Corporate Partners Program, we do have a do not contact list for a lot of the businesses that sponsor ASPER initiatives. But to have them in on those meetings and see what opportunities are there and have a say and maybe almost lay claim on certain sponsorship opportunities would be a great stepping stone and a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, I was a manager of corporate relations this year, so I think I do understand quite well how the sponsorship program goes, and I think that would play to a strength of a president. I understand how important the sponsorships are for these various initiatives, such as the wine and cheeses. I know that you need that corporate support, so I think that's something that's very important to look for in a president. In addition, as Andre had mentioned, I know it's also important that these people who are the presidents of the stags and leading the stags and know the most about the stags are attending these meetings, especially for a premier partnership or something along those lines. On a personal note, I think you'll find that I'm quite approachable and able to interact with a lot of people, so any members of STAGs I find would probably see that I have quite an open door policy and would be able to accommodate any needs that they may have as president. Thank you.
And finally, Foster.
I'll do this one in two parts as well. So first of all, what will I do with STAGs? I think the STAGs are super, super important to the Asper School. This year I wasn't involved with the CSA, and a lot of people think, the CSA is the only way to get involved with this school. The STAGs have been a great way. Being part of ASVA, being part of UMFO, both were super beneficial to me this year. I was also a part of the investors group case competition, which I said earlier. And UMA, I'm not a marketer, I'm not a marketing major, but I got involved with UMA just to see what it was like, and I've started loving it. So what I would do with the stag groups, if anything, is expand them. Two areas that I don't think are catered to very much at all are case competitions. Why we don't have a student group that's focused purely on case competitions and getting students to learn how to present cases and giving them the opportunity to go and present cases, I don't understand why we don't have a student group for that. Additionally, I'd also love to see us have a student group that are able to give students the practical experience going and learning at conferences and showing them what they can expect in the real world. Finally, on the note of funding, we've got a great corporate relations program with the CSA, with our CPP, how we get sponsorship. All the STAG groups have their own manager of corporate relations as well. I'd love to see all those managers of corporate relations with the STAG groups get together and work with the DCR to create their own CPP that's beneficial solely for STAG groups, that's something separate from the CSA and separate from their events. Thank you.
Council conflict. I'm sure everybody who is on council, or maybe people who haven't heard or haven't been on council, even being part of STAG groups or being part of groups in school, you know that there are internal conflicts that happen, and for various reasons. One thing I sometimes take pride in as a weakness and sometimes as a strength is the fact that I sometimes have trouble dealing with my own issues, but I am very good at dealing with other people's issues. As either the third voice, the third party, as a mediator. I've had experiences throughout high school as a student body president, captaining hockey teams, leading groups at school, where having that adaptability to cater to different personalities is very important, and that's something I pride myself on, and that's something I believe is very important for any management roles, but especially a student organization like the CSA. So thank you.
Okay, one thing that I think is important to keep in mind when dealing with the CSA is that all of us, including myself, would be a volunteer. We're all donating our time, and I think a lot of times that's forgotten. In the Commerce Students Association, it seems like people almost feel like you're getting a check at the end of the 2 weeks or at the end of the month, and that's really not the case. Anyone on student council is doing it because they love the school, in addition to it looking good on the resume or whatever. So with that in mind, I think I've observed a lot of leadership over the past couple of years, and I've formed my own opinions on how people would like to be treated and how people need to be managed. The only thing I can really tell you, JSA, is that I think it's also very important to be proactive when you are dealing with people and you have the ultimate responsibility of the Commerce Students Association. I know that the president is, in the end, financially liable for events such as the Commerce Social, so obviously you need to be proactive when it comes to that, but I think there are certain ways that you can approach it, and keep in mind that these people are doing things for you without getting paid. Thank you.
All right, conflict. One of my personal skills that I pride myself in is being able to listen, and I alluded to that in my speech. But when I talk with someone, I really try to understand not just what they're saying, but what they think they're saying, what they are trying to say, where they're coming from, why they're saying what they're saying. And I think that those are all really, really important when dealing with conflict. I want to always hear both sides of the story, and that's something that I've always been very proactive in. In one of my positions professionally, I was doing human resources, and I had 2 employees. It was a very small office, and I had 2 employees get into a fight that I didn't witness, and both the bosses were out of the office. And one employee took off, and the other one came shrieking into my office and started telling me her side of the story and what are you going to do about this. And I had to be very level with her, but I documented what she said. I asked the other gentleman what his side of the story was, and I documented everything so that when the actual bosses came back, I could give them a comprehensive summary of the situation, so that I was able to say, I think this might be what he meant, but this is how this person took it. And so mediating conflict to me is all about communication. And that's something that my strength is in, facilitating communication between parties. Furthermore, I think it's so important, particularly in the council situation, to be transparent when dealing with things. Obviously, there are confidentiality issues within council. We operate like a business. We're not paid. But when you take a position on council, you commit to the time that you put into that. A lot of volunteer opportunities in the city with not-for-profits have commitments where you say, yes, I'm committing to these shifts for 6 months, and I'm going to show up. You have to do this if you want to walk dogs with the Humane Society. But it's showing commitment to what you're doing. It's saying, this is what I want to do, and I'm not just going to decide that it's not important to me. I'm committed to this. And so a lot of time, conflict comes from misunderstandings of expectations. And one of the things that is very important to me in choosing my council is being very clear with them what the commitment is. Because a lot of people don't understand what the commitment is to be on exec. And all of the exec members that I've seen work so hard this year, they don't even get credit for how much time they put in. And obviously nobody on council really does, because we are just volunteers. But it is so important to explain to people before they commit what it is that they're committing to, so that that conflict can be minimalized.
I think Riley was starting to say this, but with conflict you need to be proactive and not reactive. Sure, conflict is always going to come up, but you need to try to nip that in the bud before it actually starts. You need to have open doors policies, good communication channels where you're discussing things and finding where conflict is going to be and dealing with it before it actually occurs. Now, this being said, conflict will come up, and like Kate said, it's very important. You need to communicate with both parties. You need to be level-headed. You need to take things rationally, and you can never take sides. You need to see what exactly happened, what was the intent of both parties, and how you can work with them to work it out, and not ultimately be making the decision yourself, if possible. Again, and this has come up during our election, Chris had actually said it, any punishment you dole out needs to be in accordance to what the actual offense was. Sure, you know, some people are going to have slip-ups, maybe accidentally offend someone. They didn't need to do that. You know, there doesn't need to be harsh penalties for this. So, but on the other hand, you know, big offenses, there should be big penalties to that. So that's always important to keep in mind. Thank you.